Live from the Channel Seed Studios. This is Jared and Jabo and Iowa Everywhere. Jared Stansberry. Jordan Bohannon. Together on Iowa Everywhere.
Yo, man, that intro is something else.
I feel like I'm in the future.
Wow, that was way too official for us. Welcome to the podcast. Shout out to Channel Seeds. We're gonna tell you about guys a lot more about them recording in the Channel Seeds studios here on Iowa Everywhere. Like I said, network wide deal. We're gonna tell you a lot more about them here in the coming days. Of course, it's conference championship week, Jordan. I imagine you're not feeling very good going into conference championship week after the way that yesterday went.
I don't know what to think anymore, Jared. I have Big Ten basketball. I had to stop watching it. I don't know what is happening. It is the most absurd season I've ever seen in my entire life.
I just realized our names were backwards on there.
That's pretty cool. You see a little switcheroo there.
Yeah, that was pretty slick. No, Iowa with a loss to Nebraska yesterday in the regular season finale. I saw the line open on that game. It was 11.5 for Iowa, and I was like, man, Nebraska's playing really good ball right now. I don't know about 11.5. I didn't think Nebraska was going to win the game, but I mean, they went in there and played really well, you know, and Iowa knocked down some shots in the first half, but I was watching the game. I was like, man, if you're Nebraska, you got to feel pretty damn good considering you're only down 5 when Iowa was shooting the way that they were, or whatever it was at half. It wasn't very much.
Yeah, I had a bunch of stats. I was flabbergasted at what I was reading with the stat lines after the game. I don't know if you saw my tweet and the difference between Nebraska and Iowa. Iowa had 21 more shots. They shot 74 field goals compared to Nebraska's 53. Nebraska shot 58.5% from the field. Iowa shot 36.5. Free throws, Iowa shot 9 more free throws, 21 offensive rebounds, which is absurd. Iowa had, and Nebraska had 15 turnovers compared to Iowa's 6, and Nebraska won.
How many more field goals did Iowa attempt?
21 more shots from the field.
I can't imagine that's happened very often.
21 more shots, and they got 21 back.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even put those numbers into – that is so many extra possessions.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't imagine that has ever happened very often in college basketball for them to be able to win a game or for anyone to win a game when you have 21 fewer shots like that. But I do think, I mean, Nebraska was able to get easy looks at will almost as well. You know, even if they didn't turn it over, they were scoring most of the time, or at least getting a good look at the hoop.
Yeah. They looked really good, though. I've been really impressed with Nebraska. And this is the second year in a row, Jared. They went into Wisconsin in senior night last year, if people remember correctly, and they beat them on their senior night. And that was for Wisconsin to, I don't know if it was clinch the Big Ten title. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think they would have won it outright, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would have won it outright. And they beat
Illinois split with them. Yeah,
they split it with Illinois. Just crazy. And then next year they went into senior night Iowa with Iowa having a chance to get a 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament after everything that has happened this year. They had a chance to put a 2 seed and they dropped down to a 5.
I think Nebraska won 5 of their last 6 games. That's a team playing like NCAA tournament level basketball right now. You know, like they're not going to make the NCAA tournament, but if they got into the NIT, it wouldn't shock me at all to see them give some people some problems, especially because I think from a motivation standpoint, they will have a significant advantage on a lot of people playing in the NIT, you know.
Yeah. And Hoiberg's been doing such a good job with the guys that they have in that program. Like, it just seems like he's starting to figure it out these end of last year into this year. I know they're at 500 with the record. But first of all, it's hard to win in Nebraska for whatever reason. Guys have really struggled to win at that program. But it looks like he's getting guys that are really passionate about Nebraska and guys that want to play for him. And that's a huge step forward for that program because you just didn't know what you were going to get with some of those guys that came out on a night-to-night basis the last, decade in Nebraska. So I got to get a lot of props to Hoiberg and also his son. His son has stepped up hugely with the absence of the injuries they've had at Nebraska. I mean, he's became the 9th guy. He was playing at the end of the game against Iowa, made a huge charge, got a couple steals, rebounds, hitting threes. He was big time.
That charge call was complete dog shit.
Yeah, awful call. And who made it, Jared?
It was Kelly Pfeiffer, wasn't it? The same guy from the stare down?
Yep.
Yeah. Was it payback, you think?
People want to debate me. Yeah, people want to debate me. Is there a bias as officials? You guys, it's right in front of your eyes, man. That's all I got to say. And people are just so closed-minded, they don't want to look past it.
We need robot officials. How long until AI can replace the officials?
I don't think it ever will. Here's the thing. As much as I bitch about officials, they need to be in the game. They need to be in the game because that's what makes basketball. The variable of having officials, right? But I am asking just for a little better officials. That is all I want. All I want. A little better training, a little more accountability. Is that hard to ask for? More jail time. All those 3 things.
Emphasis on the 3rd one.
Yeah.
All right. One of the most this kind of takes us into our conversation for today. We were going to start with the Big 12, but we might as well just talk about the Big 10 since we were already talking about them. But one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen, I was compiling the futures odds for the Big 10 tournament today from our friends at Circa Sports. Nebraska right now to win the Big 10 tournament is plus 30,000.
Oh my gosh. I might throw a little $10 on that.
Yeah, like I'm not saying Nebraska's going to win the tournament, 30, but a team that won 5 of their last 6 games is plus 30,000 to win the Big 10 tournament. I don't understand that at all. That's like a team like that treats Nebraska like a team that went, 6-14 or something like that in the league, and not was almost a 500 team.
I mean, I get it because they have to win 5 games in 5 days. But what's the worst?
But even then, I mean, Wisconsin, Ohio State, they would both have to win 5 games in 5 days, right?
What are they?
Wisconsin's plus 8,500 and Ohio State's plus 7,400. So almost a third of Nebraska's odds, or like less than a third.
Is there some like Creighton fans that are working at Circa for these odds? What's going on?
I'm just saying, I think there's questions to be asked here. Either this is like the biggest, I don't know, maybe we have spotted the best value bet in the history of value bets.
Just like the Eastern Illinois game when they beat Iowa?
Yeah. $1. So $1 would win you what? 3,000? Is that right?
Wait, if it's plus 30,000, 30.
Or would it be 300? I'm not a math guy.
No, it would be 3,000. It would be 3,000.
Yeah. Well, on a $1 bet.
3,000.
On a team that's won 5 of their last 6 games to win 5 more in 5 days.
Wait, isn't it 30,000?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's plus 30,000. That it makes no sense for that number to be that.
$30,000 then?
No, it'd have to be a $100 bet to win 30,000.
What is time?
I think that's right.
Win
I don't know. We're morons. Yeah. We're morons. I don't know. The odds are really long. The odds are disrespectfully long towards the Huskers. The Huskers are too good of a team to have plus 30,000. Minnesota is plus 75,000. That sounds right. Okay.
That sounds right. They might be more. They should be more.
Yeah. Like Minnesota, there's no way in hell that Minnesota is winning this tournament. Nebraska, there is a way that some crazy motherfucker out there who could chart a path in his mind to how Nebraska is going to win the Big Ten tournament and go to the NCAA tournament for the first time in almost 10 years.
That would be an unreal headline. Nebraska winning 5 games in 5 days. Coach Hoiberg back in the NCAA tournament.
And then somehow they'd have to play Iowa State in the first round. They'd be like a
That
12
would
seed.
be awesome. Realistically, I don't even know if they would get a 12 seed.
No, they probably would be. Yeah. Man, that would be something else. That would be something else.
What's Iowa State predicted right now? Like a 9?
A 5. I saw 5s in all the bracketology. Dude, that win on Saturday was a big one, man. That got him. Yeah, that bumped them back up. And then I think, too, after the stuff with Grill, I think that some people maybe dropped them a seed line for that. And then once they won, that, like, boosted them even more. You know, they're like, okay, we're going to counteract this original drop from that story. And then now they got this big win. So we're going to bump them again.
They basically flipped with Iowa.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. That is crazy. They're a 5, though. I mean, I get it. But
my worst nightmare scenario is that Iowa State has to play Drake as a 12 seed in a 5-12 matchup.
You don't want to play that.
That's my worst nightmare. Yeah, worst nightmare.
Dude, I always say this about the NCAA tournament now that I've experienced it firsthand. Like the 2, well, more like the 3 through 16 seeds don't matter. Like it does not matter what you get between those seeding. It matters the team you play. Like you could be a 3 seed, like Ohio State, right? Ohio State played Oral Roberts, right? Or is it old? Mm-hmm. It was Oral Roberts, right?
Yeah, with Max Asmus and Kevin O'Banner. Yeah.
Horrible matchup for them. Horrible matchup. Us last year, we were a 5 seed. We played a 12 seed Richmond team that was one of the hottest teams in the country. The year before that, Oregon won the Pac-12 championship. They got a first ever bye in the NCAA tournament. Terrible situation. It is literally all about like your matchup. That's literally what teams I feel like isn't talked about enough by these commentators and reporters that are out there talking about the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that's what allowed like Iowa State last year to be able to be in the position that they were. They got a good matchup against an LSU team that didn't have a head coach.
Yeah.
You know, or knew that their head coach was about to be fired. And then you get a good matchup against a Wisconsin team that's banged up and plays a style that's similar to yours, but you felt like you could do it better than them, you know? And it's like, and then all of a sudden you're in a Sweet 16. Like that's all it takes, you know? Or even think I think to the year that Kentucky was an 8 seed and went to the Final Four, you just get lucky to get Wichita State in the second round as Kentucky when your highly talented roster is really starting to kind of gel. And you're like, oh my God, we lucked into getting to play a Missouri Valley team in the second round. You know, like that's like a gift from heaven at that point.
It's just like Illinois in COVID year 2. They played a Loyola team that was, I mean, no one wants to face Loyola in the NCAA tournament. They have Sister Jean who really prays against the opponent, so they're always going to win. Like, it's just how that works. They have the bad juju on the opponent's side there.
The Ramblers finished in last place in the Atlantic 10 this year. And tough year for Sister Jean to be releasing a book. She was hoping she had what? Gave up on the team? Probably.
How old is she now? 103? Did I read that right?
Something like that. Yeah.
I actually met Sister Jean and when I received my Stan Musial Award for missing the free throw for Chris Treat. They had the award ceremony in St. Louis, and Sister Jean was like the Lifetime Achievement Award. And I actually sat at her dinner table with like her security guards. And
Sister Jean has a security team?
Yeah, she had her own security team. And I sat right next. It was me, Mike and Patty, and my mom on the other side. And then it was security guard. Sister Jean was there, but she was like not walking around, but being wheelchaired around. Yeah, to meet people and mingle around. And then another security guard. So I think she had 3 there. But I was talking to the security guard the whole dinner. I was like asking all these questions, and I was like, what Sister Jean was like, and he was like telling me all these funny stories about her and how she can have like a little bit of attitude sometimes. And dude, I was like getting, I feel like I was getting like dirt on Sister Jean, but it really wasn't dirt, like because there's nothing bad to say about the woman.
Yeah, because she's a nun. Yeah,
she's never done anything bad in her life.
Right. What kind of security concerns do you think there are for Sister Jean that prompts her needing a security team?
I know. I remember asking him like what they do with her on a daily basis, and they're basically like making sure she's like not worn down or like places she needs to be at certain times, and like if she
So they're
wants to
more
be
like
done
caretakers
talking.
than security. Yeah.
No, I mean, I guess you could say caretakers. I feel like they're definitely there like protecting her too because she is like a national icon. So because there's people
One of my
swarming her at the place.
one of my
Like
friends
this.
has a deep, undying dislike for Sister Jean
Oh, why?
because he's a Drake fan. He didn't like
Oh,
Loyola, so now he hates Sister Jean. I think it's just vindictive, in my opinion. I just think it's a little unnecessary. He doesn't like old people, but it's just
he
my
doesn't like
opinion.
old people.
I think he has some psychological issues that have prompted him to not like this particular old person. That's just my personal opinion. I've voiced this to him. Shout out to Sean. He knows. I think it's a little unnecessary that he shits on Sister Jean the way that he does.
I
She's a
would
nice lady.
imagine there's a lot of sports bettors out there that despise her guts after what happened with Loyola a few years ago when they made the run in the NCAA tournament.
And there's probably a handful out there who absolutely love her too because of the amount of money that Loyola made for him.
Yeah. I
All
don't
right,
know.
let's talk about the Big
There's
Ten.
something
Let's talk about the
weird.
Big
There's
Ten
something
tournament.
weird, Jared, going on
With Sister
that
Jean?
team. Yeah, I mean,
With Sister Jean or just the team in general?
I don't know. You just have the feeling in the NCAA tournament when they were making the runs, like they just had something pulling for them that wasn't pulling in the other direction.
How long until someone tries to make a Angels in the Outfield version of Loyola basketball, like the Loyola basketball story, and it's just Angels in the Outfield but for basketball?
That's what I'm talking about, like that type. Have you ever seen the movie The Sixth Man or The Sixth Man? This movie with like what's the actor? Well, his like brother dies. He played college basketball with him, and then he like
Oh, the way
comes.
back or something? I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't
I
know.
don't
They
know.
like played at Georgetown or something, and his brother died, and he was like came back as like a spirit and a ghost, and he would like be in the arena and place the ball in the basket if it was close to missing, and like do all these spiritual like insane things.
So you're saying that Angels in the Outfield basketball edition is already a thing?
I guess
Basically.
yeah. I didn't really think about that. Is literally a basketball version of Angels in the Outfield.
It's really
What is that
disappointing.
movie
I
called?
would have written that film. I would have written
I
that
think it's
film.
The Sixth Man, maybe.
I remember in Luck of the Irish.
What?
Do you remember the Disney Channel movie Luck of the Irish? Do you remember that one?
Yep, I love that movie. Or was it a movie or show?
Yeah, well, it was like a Disney Channel movie. You know, it was
Yeah.
probably an hour and a half long or something. But I just remember the
Yep.
grandpa sitting on top of the basket, like acting like a leprechaun up there.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we have
That's
dove
exactly
deep
what I'm
into
talking
it.
about. That's what was in the movie. Yeah, it's like this right here. Oh, maybe not. Facebook just opened up 17 different ads. Oh my gosh. I am being spammed. Okay, never mind. We're not watching it.
All right, yeah, we're good. We're good. We know enough. All the people who tuned in
12
for
tabs open right now.
Chris texted us earlier this week and said you guys should really hammer the Big 12 or the tournaments this week. And then we talked for 16 minutes about Sister Jean and a basketball version of Angels in the Outfield in Nebraska. We did talk about Nebraska. That's all we got to. If you want to bet on Nebraska plus 30,000 in the Big Ten tournament, download the Circa Sports Iowa app, and you can get Nebraska at plus 30,000 right
What's
there.
Iowa?
All the odds I'm going to mention here on the show from Circa Sports app. Iowa is plus 1,500. They have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th best odds.
And they're on Purdue side. I would imagine their odds drastically shifted after the loss in Nebraska.
Yeah, I would say that is probably a safe assumption. I would think. Do you have any concern about if they have to play Wisconsin or Ohio State again? Like, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ohio State's. We've talked to this ad nauseum about these teams that just have nothing to lose, everything to win. Ohio State and Wisconsin are two of those teams, right? I want to be way far away from those guys. So that's why the double bye is. That's why it's so hard to win 4 games in 4 days, like what we did last year. Because you face these teams in the first round of your games, they're like they have no pressure at all. They win, it's gravy. If they don't, it's no big deal, right? So those first games are so hard to win. Those Thursday, I think they're playing Thursday afternoon now. Iowa is. Wisconsin and Ohio State, those are 2 teams. Yikes.
As of right now, I'm seeing Wisconsin in the last 4 playing in Dayton in the first 4. I mean, I would have to think if they could get into that game and beat Iowa, that would have to boost them into the tournament, wouldn't you think?
Oh, easily, yeah. That's a game so hard to win. That is so hard to win. And you're playing, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how the Wednesday night games shake out, because like teams like Penn State are in the Wednesday day games. And Penn State's a really, really good team. Nebraska's playing really well. Minnesota's the only team that you're not really worried about in the Wednesday games. But everyone else,
they play Thursday. Penn State plays Thursday.
Oh, they do play there? I thought they didn't get the bye.
No, they're the 10 seed. They play Illinois at 5:30 on Thursday.
I didn't know. I thought they got the 11 seed.
No, Nebraska got the 11 seed. So if they beat Minnesota, which they should, they'll play Maryland in the last game on Thursday. Man,
it's just a crazy.
I'm buying in, dude. I think I might bet on Nebraska. I'm not even kidding.
Well, we're gonna probably see a Illinois Northwestern showdown in Chicago.
I wish that I could bet on them just to make it to the quarterfinals, because I think they can win 2 in a row, but I don't think they could. I don't know if they can beat Indiana. But Nebraska or Northwestern Illinois in the quarterfinals, yeah, that will be good. That will be a hostile game. What do you think the crowd will be like for that game? At 5:30.
A lot of fights.
On a Friday. Fights?
A lot of fights. Yeah. I
don't envision the people from Northwestern fighting anyone.
Oh, well, Illinois fans will break them down to make them want to fight. It's unbelievable.
The Big Ten should invite the Boys and Girls Club of Champaign to the game.
Ooh, that's a good idea. It's a really good idea.
I'm just saying, if the Big Ten wants to be charitable.
Yeah, well, they don't want to do that.
God forbid. God forbid. Oh, man.
I like Northwestern's chances, though, to be honest with you.
You like Northwestern to win the whole thing? Northwestern is plus 800, 4th best odds.
I really like – they're playing so well, man. And they have a team that I think like their defense is the best in the Big Ten. And that's what's going to make or break teams.
If you want to throw your money away, you can bet on Purdue to win the tournament at plus 160. It'd be a bad bet.
I don't think Purdue is winning it.
No, Purdue I don't think is going to win. Indiana's plus 550. Michigan State is also plus 550, and then Northwestern plus 800, Maryland plus 900.
I like seeing someone come off from the bottom side of the bracket. I think that's probably who's going to win it. The top side is so heavy on really, really good basketball teams. Not saying the bottom side it doesn't have really good basketball teams, but the top side I think has the best teams on the bracket.
Yeah, I would say there's probably some more flawed teams that you could see like having a game where they lay an egg on the bottom side of the bracket.
Right.
So you're convincing me. You're convincing me more that I got to go put my money on the Huskers. Like my money is burning a hole in my pocket now to go put money to go bet on this.
Hey, I'm right there. I'm probably gonna put $5 down on if it's 30,000 odds. That's a must. You have to put it down.
Yeah, that's on the Circus Sports app. You guys can find that. One year, I made so this was the year that Nebraska had James Palmer, like Isaac Copeland, all those guys had come back, I think. And they had a really good team at the beginning of the year. They finally beat Creighton. After they beat Creighton that year, I think that was the first time they beat Creighton since like 2004. I was like in the 3rd grade the last time Nebraska had beat Creighton before that. I said that if Nebraska didn't win an NCAA tournament game that year, I would get a Danny Nee tattoo. Nebraska is still the only Power 5 team without a win in the NCAA tournament.
So
I don't have a Danny Nee tattoo. It was just stupid. I was being stupid. I shouldn't have said that.
So you lied.
Yeah, the last thing that I should ever do is believe in Nebraska basketball. If I ever tell you, hey, I think Nebraska basketball is gonna be good, I need you to just slap me. I know better.
Here's the thing, though. They're what is it, the first time in ever they swept Iowa in the Big Ten?
Yeah. This was the first time they'd won in Carver Hawkeye Arena since I was a senior in high school.
Didn't they beat Creighton this year too?
They did.
Yeah, they beat Creighton too. What a year for Nebraska! Like, go back to Nebraska again. Like, that's
if
insane.
they'd started their upturn like 2 weeks earlier, they're going to the tournament.
Yeah,
because I think they're 16 and 15 right now, and there's teams that are going to be in the tournament that are 17 and 14. You know.
Do we really define being in the tournament though as a playing game? Can we throw the notion away in the trash? Playing game is not an NCAA tournament. It's really called a playing game.
Yes.
Really called a playing game. So what are we talking about?
That's the fake tournament. Fake tournament.
Like, why call it I don't know. Why call it playing if you want to argue they're in the NCAA tournament?
And the only people who celebrate that win in the NCAA tournament are like the teams that never win games in the tournament.
Exactly.
You know? Perfect example. Drake won a play-in game. And you would think that Drake had gone to the Sweet 16 the last time they went to the tournament. They won one game. And it was the first four.
Indiana last year. They killed oh my gosh. Who was their first round? I know they got killed by St. Mary's. They won they won like double overtime or something in the first round in the playing game. Mm-hmm. And they got killed in the first round against St. Mary's. You guys did not win a game in the NCAA tournament. I'm sorry, Indiana fans. I really am, but you guys didn't.
All right. We'll flip things over to the Big 12. But first, I want to remind you guys, all our basketball conversation on the podcast brought to you by Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails on Main Street in Ames. It's a perfect place to go before or after Iowa State home games, anytime the Cyclones are on the road or anytime the Hawkeyes are in action. It's a great spot for late night fun with its Southern-inspired menu with a great collection of burgers, sandwiches, wings, and, of course, Caroline's famous fried chicken. That's Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails at 316 Main Street in Ames, the presenting sponsor of all of our basketball conversation right here on the podcast. All right, flipping it over to the Big 12 side. I'm heading to Kansas City tomorrow. This is going to be a fun week of basketball down in Kansas City. The top five on Circus Sports for the odds. Kansas, obviously the number 1 seed. They're plus 260. Texas is plus 310 as the 2 seed. Baylor, the 4 seed, plus 500. Kansas State plus 650. TCU plus 750. And then Iowa State is plus 1,000. Has the 6th best odds. The Cyclones, man, feeling pretty good. Much better going into this tournament than I think anybody expected them to be feeling going into that game in Waco on Saturday. This feels like a tough spot for the Cyclones, though, having to play this team again for the second time in 5 days. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see their first half of basketball. I think that'll tell a lot about where Iowa State's headed in this postseason play. Obviously, coming off Baylor, huge win. Got to give a lot of props to that program for everything they went through the last week, and then to really come together as a team and pull off that win, that is, I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, we kind of talked about the respect that these players have for TJ and the passion they play with, and they love playing for Iowa State. So that's obviously showing still. I would imagine we're going to see a similar team like we did against Baylor. I would be really shocked if they came out flat like they have the past 10 games, that they have kind of struggled with their offense and defense a little bit, but they look good, man. I'm excited to watch them.
They did look really good. That was probably the best ball they'd played in a month, at the very least, against the Bears on Saturday. My only concern is, like, Baylor's a really talented team, and you have to play them twice in 5 days. I thought, Drake and Bradley, like, Bradley beat the shit out of Drake last week, and then Drake comes back and just destroys them in the Missouri Valley Championship game. Like, it's hard to beat a team anytime, but it's really hard to beat a team twice in 2 weeks, especially now. Like, Baylor's going to be motivated. They got beat by 15 twice when they played Iowa State. It's like the worst team that Iowa State could have had to play in this event, probably.
Yeah. It's a lot similar to our COVID year when we played Wisconsin. I think we played them 3 times. We played them 3 times that year, once in the Big Ten tournament, but we played our last game really close to the Big Ten tournament when we played them again. It's a kind of a weird feeling when you're a player and you're coming off your regular season play and you just played this team and you're playing them in postseason again, because it's almost like, yeah, you're in postseason play, right? And you're playing for a lot on the table, like a Big Ten tournament title. You're playing for seeding in the NCAA tournament. But it goes back to just like, it feels like a mid-season Big Ten type feel when you're playing a team like that again, so quickly turn around. I would imagine it'll be a pretty low-scoring game with having just played each other 5 days before or whatever it was. Yeah, I think it's going to be a grind, and I don't know. That's definitely a weird feeling as a player and a coach. What do you even tell your guys? Like, you just seen this team. You just went over scout with them. You've played them already, like pretty close. So I don't know. It's really just who wants it more. It's not anything to do with scouting, not anything to do with. It's really just playing harder. That's the end of the day.
I would say that if it's a low-scoring defensive game, that definitely trends towards Iowa State, or leans towards Iowa State. Not that Baylor can't defend, but they can't defend at that same level that they have a lot of years, I think, these past couple. They're more of just get out and run. And I think that's actually what makes Iowa State a tough matchup for them, is how much harder it is to really get those isolations that they live on. Like Keontae George, they just want to isolate Keontae George and let Keontae George be Keontae George, which a lot of times is something that you can just do and you're going to win a lot of games because that guy's really fucking good. But yeah. I think with the way that Iowa State defends, they're like, we're not even going to let Keontae George go and do those kinds of things. We're going to make Miles Bridges shoot 3-pointers all night,
And I think the biggest factor is, again, Gabe Kalsher, what player we're going to get with him. If he's the player that showed up last year in postseason play, Iowa State has a chance to win the tournament, in my opinion. If he's like he was beginning of the season, they're going to struggle, and they're going to have a short postseason play. That's for sure.
Who would you peg as your favorite in this one? Who do you think will win this?
I like Kansas. I've liked them all year. I wouldn't be shocked.
Really inspired pick.
What?
Really inspired pick from you.
Well, let's just be honest here. Coach Self is probably one of the best coaches in the country. He always finds a way to win regular championship titles, tournament titles. Mm-hmm. Finds a way to make the Final Fours. I would imagine his guys are going to be ready to play this postseason play, and they're gonna do some damage because they have a really good team and one of the best teams in the country. Not the most. I wouldn't say they're necessarily the most skilled team, but I think overall, from a team aspect, they're the best team. Yeah,
their guards are just so good, and they just are they have so many different weapons that they've got, and even the guys that they bring off the bench are tough. Like they don't have anybody that they put out there that you're like, man, that guy's a bum. Like they just are. That's what drives me crazy about it. Anytime you play them, they're going to bring somebody off the bench. Like Joe Yesufu is going to come off the bench and he's going to give them 12 points. And you're like, and then you look at it and it's like the last time Joe Yesufu scored 12 points was like in November, And it's just like he just has that ability to pop up on people or anybody on their team. I don't know. I think Bill Self's the best coach in the country. I'm not sure that it's even close at this point.
Yeah. He just wins. I mean, people talk about Coach Izzo, like, winning in March. Obviously, he's had his fair share of Final Fours and Big Ten titles, but I mean, Coach Self's on a different level compared to coaches. I mean, the things he's been able to do in postseason play and championship titles, it's absurd. It's numbers that might not ever be replicated ever again in college basketball.
I wish more people did their business the way that Bill Self goes about his business. You can tell that he has a lot of self security. like secure. He is secure in who he is, so he's not like afraid to be honest, like in the media or things like that. There's a lot of coaches that I think are not secure enough in who they are. This is basically what I'm trying to say. They're not secure enough in who they are to be forthcoming about their thought processes and what they're doing. In like Bill Self will tell you exactly why he didn't play someone. He'll tell you exactly why he did whatever, as far as running this specific set in this specific moment, and not be like, oh, I have to lock these things down like it's Fort Knox because these are trade secrets, Like we all just watch the game. It's all on film. You might as well just explain what's going on. And I've always appreciated that about him, that he is just very confident in who he is as a coach, that he doesn't feel like he needs to hide things, well, unless he's, unless it's the Adidas money that he did feel the need to hide that.
Yeah. Forgot about that one.
He didn't hide the strippers. They just had him come out with Snoop Dogg. You remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah. How long ago was that?
Yeah. I don't know. A couple years. I would have liked to see the email inbox for Kansas's athletic director after that deal. I can't even imagine what some of those fine folks down in Kansas thought of that.
What about like Rick Ross coming out of Nebraska's pre-season? Was that 3 years ago? That was so crazy. I'm looking at my Instagram story and got fucking Nebraska team on stage with Rick Ross at the arena. And here Iowa, we just had a 3-hour practice 2 days before the game.
Fat Joe and Shaq are going to be at the Big 12 tournament this weekend. Fat Joe's doing a concert, and then DJ Diesel will be doing a set at the Power and Light on Saturday.
DJ Diesel.
Yep. The Big 12 is hip now, man. The Big 12 is something else. If I was going to pick a team that's a little bit longer odds to maybe be a dark horse here, I'd probably peg TCU. Depends on their health. They cannot stay healthy, so I don't know how confident I would be in that. But if they're healthy and they've got all their guys out there, then I think that team is capable of getting hot enough to win 4 games or win 3 games in 3 days.
I think Texas.
Texas is who I picked this morning. Yeah.
Texas loses first round.
You think so?
My prediction. Yep.
To Oklahoma State or Oklahoma?
Yep. Oh, I think Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma. And Oklahoma State beats them. I've been skeptical of Texas the whole year. You know that. We've talked about it before with Marcus Carr. Everything that they've had issues with this season with coaching, and I just don't see them being a factor this postseason play. I'd be shocked for them to make it far. Really shocked.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who are going to be picking them to go to the Final Four.
I don't see it.
I don't think so either. But
I mean, there's every one of those teams people predict. I mean, Iowa was one last year. We lost first round. There's always one of those teams that people predict Final Four based off what they did in the last part of their conference season. I don't see it. I think there's a lot of question marks around that team. A lot.
I just don't know that they've got guys that are reliable for 6 games in a row like that.
Yeah. To be
able
able
too many wild cards.
Yeah. I mean, you can be the most skilled players, which they probably have one of the most skilled players in the country, from 1 on the roster to 10. But how reliant are those guys? I think they're one of the most inconsistent, reliant-wise guys in the country.
All right, one last story I did want to touch on before we sign off here. I want to talk about this Mark Adams deal. Have you read about this?
Yes.
So this kind of has had me fired up, dude. This is, I think, a perfect example of some of the things that are wrong, I think, with coaching in general. For anybody who doesn't know, Mark Adams was suspended indefinitely for making racially insensitive comments towards a player, quoting the Bible, using a verse that had something about masters and slaves, which is really unfortunate, for one, that even has to be said in 2023, that someone had the idea that this is what they're going to roll with and that they're going to use this with their players and think that that's coaching technique, to me is really, really sad. But it also, I think, is a perfect example of how, man, there's a lot of coaches out here who are going to tell you that they're trying to do the right things for young men, that they're trying to use faith and all this kind of stuff to try and help people and be a better leader. And man, there's a lot of people that are out here talking about their faith and using their faith as a way to manipulate kids and gaslight kids. And this type of situation right here is exactly that, because this is not about God, and it's not about the Bible, and it's not about any of those things. This is about Mark Adams trying to gaslight a kid to help himself win. And that's really fucking gross. Like, that is really, really gross. And I hope that there's a lot of coaches out there that really looked themselves in the mirror after this story came out and was like, man, am I using some of these things and interpreting things and relaying things to my team and doing it for the right reasons? Are you doing it because you actually want to help people in their lives and you want to help, with this, give them tools that you feel for you, have helped you and all those kinds of things? Then, like, that's more power to you. But when you start doing stuff like this and trying to make these parallels and things like this, man, it just is really unfortunate that people like that are making $3.5 million to coach basketball, because that's, to me, is grasping for straws. You don't know how to coach your fucking team, and that just is, I just had to go on that rant there for a second before I'll let you react.
No, you said a lot of great things. I think this literally fell right in our hands with everything that we were talking about last week with college coaches and the college sports landscape as a whole, how much of a pedestal these guys are being put on the national stage, with how much money they're being made. And I'm not saying anything directly correlated with Iowa State and that whole situation last week. I'm more pointing towards the fact of the amount of headlines we've seen this just year alone about everything that's been going on, and these insanely stories. I mean, you go down the line of just coaches in the last 5 years that have had issues within their own team, with their own personal lives. And these are the people we're going to have our kids being sent to become great young men in society and learn about life through, and adversity and the hardships and everything you go through. Because I tell you what, firsthand, playing college basketball is a once in a lifetime dream that I am forever grateful for. But if you don't have the right people in your lives to direct you down that path of being a great young man, you're going to struggle insanely as an individual. And you see this countless times now with college coaches that are doing crazy ass things, and they're going to continue, start preaching their morals and give that to their team and have them lead a perfect life when they're not leading a perfect life themselves. It's insanely disgusting. It's gross, like you said. And this is a huge reason why I became such a huge player advocate through the years, because I've seen these stories behind the scenes. I've seen things that happen within locker rooms. I know how devastating some of these coaches can be to players. I'm not saying Iowa was like that. Iowa was a great place for me, or a great place for a team. But with friends I've had throughout programs in the country, college sports is in a dangerous and crazy place right now, based off everything that's happened this past year. And this is another example where it is gross and it's disgusting. And I'm ashamed to be a former college basketball player with another story like this coming out.
The one positive, I think, is that now these guys can get exposed for this stuff so quickly. Like, this didn't happen that long ago, and all of a sudden, and now Mark Adams is suspended, which I think is a positive, because I think that things like this need to be rooted out. There are some wild ass stories out there about Mark Adams, dude. Like, I'm not going to be the one that goes out there and relays this, but I can tell you right now that there are wild stories that I've heard through the grapevine about things that are going on in Lubbock right now, or have been going on in Lubbock. And that is what made me the most mad about this, is that you're using this on your team, calling that coaching and all that kind of stuff. And I know that there are people out there that this message resonates with. Clearly, I'm not one of them. I don't think that this message would resonate with me, but I know there probably are people out there that it wouldn't resonate with. But it's not coaching your team to do this, especially when you got some of the things that are out there about you that are being circulated that I can tell you right now would not be very Christian-like. And it's insulting to your players because do you think that they don't know? Or do you think that they don't hear about these things? Do you think that they haven't heard about the things that their coach might be out there doing? And then you want to come in here and you want to tell people about God and you want to tell people about living a Christ-like life? Like that makes no sense, you know? And that to me is what I hope is what's being exposed, is all these coaches who clearly think that their kids are idiots. The kids that are on their teams are idiots, and that they can manipulate them again so that they can win basketball games and so that they can make money. Because these kids are way smarter than what a lot of people in college athletics give them credit for. And I think this, again, like I said, I think this is a perfect example of that, because there was a kid out there who Mark Adams thought he could use this verse, and that kid sat there and said, that's really fucked up, and I'm going to do something about it, because I'm not sitting through this, you know, because that guy doesn't deserve to be in his job. Like, if you can't coach your team without that, then what are you making $3.5 million for? Why do you have a contract for $15 million? You shouldn't have one. I don't know. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. It is gross. And it's really no words to be said, honestly. I think the fact that, I'm trying to use my words wisely here. I saw some replies about like cancel culture, which I don't know the exact details. I just read an article about everything that's happened. And obviously this isn't the first situation where it happened last week for someone got kicked off the team for what they said. I think we're having troubles with saying some things in today's society. I do agree with that notion. But I think to an extent we're looking at some of our leaders in not only life but college sports, and they're not leading the life like they're saying to these people, to their kids, and promising these things to these families in living rooms when they come to these schools and what their life's going to be like. It happens across the whole country. And I know this is a little off topic, but I just think this is just a small example, but there's a small detail, but all these small details have led into this huge problem in college landscape, sports landscape, that I don't even know how it can be fixed at this point with the amount of money these coaches are being made. They're literally he's $3.5 million he's making per year. When you have that amount of money, comes with a lot of power. And I mean, you see Chris Beard at Texas with the allegations that happened there, all the money he was making. He's probably going to get hired again by another university after everything that just happened this past year. Just insane. It's idiotic. And it comes down to NCAA again, because there's no enforcement with any of these schools. And I guarantee you NCAA will not say anything. Reporters that are dealing with NCAA basketball or dealing with these conferences, they won't say anything about it. They'll say about what happened, and that's it. They won't have an opinion. They won't have anything to say about that. Next time they go to another school like Chris Beard will, all things will be forgotten. As long as they win games. You win games, everything's forgotten. And that's how college sports has been working the past decades, the past century.
And that's why it's awfully convenient that this happens when Mark Adams has not been winning games, right. You know? And that's where it's tough, because I think the reality is that it's like these coaches, they lose touch with reality. They make so much money, they lose touch with reality because they're not like real people anymore. They don't have to do anything. Coach basketball. That's it. You make so much money to coach basketball. So then your only goal is to win. And then because winning keeps the next check coming, you know, and keeps it to where all you have to do is worry about basketball. And that's where I think these guys are able to lose their sight of the right thing. But that's what makes like the best ones, who they are, is because they don't allow all of that stuff to get in the way of doing what they think is right for their kids, you know, and it doesn't prevent them from doing all of the right things. And I think there's a lot of coaches out there. I think that some of these ones we've talked about a lot the last couple of weeks, Nate Oates is another one that I think you could throw out there. You start worrying about the wrong things and your priorities get really skewed. And all of a sudden you get into a situation where you're so like out of touch with what again, reality and like with life and just like with society on in a sense that you don't comprehend how big of a deal something is, you know? And then all of a sudden you're in a sticky situation because you didn't even know that it was really that big of a deal because you're like insulated from all the things that would tell you that it's a big deal. It is just a cycle, you know, of then you create another issue and it just is like one thing after another.
I honestly think college basketball might have the most amount of hypocrites per like population, if that makes
per capita. Yeah.
Yes. Because one, the landscape of itself, just how it's ran by the top dog with the NCAA. And then you go down the university level, the amount of issues that occur at a university level, not even with sports in general. I mean, maybe we can just talk about college, you know, how it's handled with these kids coming to college, outside life and on the court too. I just think everywhere you look, and now that I'm on the inside of it, outside of it, after being on the inside of it for so long, everywhere you go and look, I feel like there's a hypocrite somewhere. And it's so hard to distinguish that line of people that, are they really in it for the best interest for these kids? Like, do they really want this kid that came in as an 18-year-old, graduated as a 22-year-old, and be a key member of society after they're done putting that jersey on? Do they really care about that at the end of the day? It's hard for me to ever think that for the rest of my life that there's a high majority of people that are in these kids' lives that truly want that. And just look at this year alone again. Headlines left and right about coaches, about players making mistakes. Starts with the top. It really does. And that's NCAA all the way down.
And that's what I thought was the most disgusting thing that really came out of like the whole Adidas story, is that it made it blatantly clear that like what was in the best interest of kids was not. It's like those guys, as much as anything, aren't going to jail because of what they did. They're going to jail because they were manipulating these kids, you know, and that they're telling them to go and sign a deal with this guy so that they can keep making money on the kickback on the side, you know, or so they can keep getting this recruit so that then they can go be a head coach. So then they can go and do this and do this and do this. And you start getting that bag. And it's like the kids start becoming secondary once you've got that bag, you know, and it just is, not everybody is like that, but basketball has a way higher number of them per capita. When you think about the grassroots circuits, you think about college basketball, and you think about like trainers and things like that are selling things to people that are just like bullshit, you know. How many people do like, can you think of that are out, or I know of people are like, you see things on Instagram, trainers that are showing them the next, like you're showing you the next new thing that's going to be coming up in basketball training. And you're like, bro, you're a snake oil salesman. You don't need all that. You need a hoop and a ball, and you can like, but you don't need this thing that you're going to put on your hand. Like, it's like, man, you're just like manipulating people again, you know, and way too many people are like that in the game of basketball. I feel like I'm sure it's like that in every sport, but it seems like basketball just has way more of them, like you said, per capita than most sports from what I've been able to see.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about the whole grassroots level. I mean, football really doesn't have that, to be honest. I mean, they have local teams that play against each other, and then they have high school football. There's not really like an AAU circuit like there is for basketball, AAU basketball players. And, I mean, that alone, talking about starting the kids wrong right off from the start of their most important years of their life is high school AAU seasons, because that in itself, I mean, what are we doing with these sponsorships, with kids, with handlers talking to these college coaches, the kids not even talking to college coaches anymore because they want money instead of going to the right school. And again, I'm not opposing wanting money as kids, that they deserve that money, but there's just so many people with the wrong interest with these kids, and it stems right back to the story of Mark Adams. And it's
bro, we got people out here ranking sixth graders, dude, like ranking third graders, you know, and for what?
All for, yeah.
What? What's it matter? All that should matter is that the kid loves the game and is like having fun playing the game when they're in the third grade. No one should be thinking, oh, I hope this gets me a D1 scholarship when they're taking their kid to third grade basketball on a Saturday morning. If that's what you're thinking about, man, yeah, I feel bad for your kids.
I remember NY2LA AU circuit tournaments they held. shout out NYTLA because I do think they did a really good job with their tournaments and with college coaches coming to watch us play through the years. But man, I remember going on their websites when I was, 5th grade, playing against, like Mean Streets and Playground Lake, like these top AAU teams, and seeing all these players that are, number 4 point guard in the whole country, number 3 center. You look back, all these guys, they're nowhere to be found. They're not, they didn't play at a high level basketball. I guarantee, like they're not playing professional basketball. They had a mediocre college career. And then that was it. They fizzled out.
They're out there telling somebody right now, hey boy, back before I hurt my knee in 2007, I was in the 4th grade. I'd played 97 basketball games already that year. Hurt my knee. I was number 2 player in the country at that time. I was going to the league. I was destined for it. They had me playing 150 basketball games a year. I was 7 years old.
Well, that starts with wrong people telling the wrong things to those kids.
Yeah, tell the wrong thing to. Yeah, they got people like I know people that have got their kid playing 90 baseball games in in a summer, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure that's good for them.
Yeah,
man, let's get them a little exercise. Have them playing a major league schedule.
Yeah, or just playing just one sport in general. Like, oh, this kid's going to be a baseball player. He's not going to pick up anything other than baseball. He's not going to touch a basketball. Nothing. He's only playing baseball. I'm like, bro, let the kid live.
Right. Let him do his thing. Let him do his thing. All right, man. Enjoy championship week.
Go Clones, go Hawks.
Oh, better clip that part right there. We'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.